What's up, Carla?
What's up, Chris? How
I'm
you
going to
doing?
start with the most boring topic ever.
Okay.
Like, how is the weather where you are?
It is pretty hot. It's pretty hot, I have to say.
Here's why I mention that
Okay.
because around this time of year, especially when the weather is terrific, I
Uh-huh.
have the opportunity to go down to the Bronx and attend, which is like one of my favorite events of the year, which is Fannie Lou Hamer's Peace Block Party.
Yes.
I went there last week. It's like totally run by the student government. We
Yeah.
both know Jeff Palladino, and he has a hard time like keeping his hands off of things. But, like this is one event every year where like it's totally student run. And have you been to the Peace Block Party before, Carla?
No, but I always see it on social media. It's always hyped up.
Well,
And it looks like fun.
this one has passed, so definitely put it on your calendar for next year. It is a terrific event.
Okay, okay.
Do you see the like gentle segue that I'm getting to?
Yeah. I'm guessing we're talking about the Bronx.
Well, yeah, we are, and specifically with some folks from Fannie Lou Hamer. So I wanted to welcome
Perfect.
Brandon Gonzales, current student at Fannie Lou, correct?
Yes.
Yancy Sanes, you are Brandon's advisor.
Yeah, correct.
So welcome to today's show. We're going to be talking about the Bronx and specifically about the Bronx and environmental activism.
Thank you for
Yes.
having us. We're excited to be here. Thank you.
Carla,
Welcome.
yeah, go ahead.
I'm gonna kick it off. I have the pleasure of reading a few articles about the activism that's happening specifically within the Bronx, and I think I wanted to first kick off the question to Brandon about the first time I ever learned about environmental activism and/or racism. I was in college, and to hear that you're in high school and this is a topic and issue that you're passionate about. Can you tell me a little bit about how you came to learn about environmental activism, specifically in the communities that you live in?
So I came to learn about environmental racism. I got to ninth grade and passed through a couple months learning about the importance of how to cure our world in the best ways possible. But then we actually learned about the problems and what we can do to help, not contribute in those problems. Um, we learned about resistance against the oppression that we face, and it was just an amazing unit. And it started off pretty early too in my high school career, so I just really appreciate that.
And you're saying this was in ninth grade?
Yes.
That's amazing. Is this something, and maybe the answer, your Brandon, y'all can answer, is this something that's embedded in the Fannie Lou curriculum? Is this at the heart of the school?
Yes.
We're a social justice school, and we really want to teach what's relevant in our children's lives right now. And that's what they're going through right now is environmental racism, environmental injustice, and climate change. So it's important to talk about those issues so they could be out in their community fighting for justice.
And then Yancy actually wanted to tee up this question. I'm a former teacher, and I often hear teachers, they're like, I wish I could teach about subjects that I'm passionate about, that relate and matter to my students. What are some ways that folks can do that? Because it seems like clearly Fannie Lou is doing that when they often feel constricted.
That's the beauty of working here at this school is just like the freedom to teach what you want. Like if you're passionate about it, you pitch it to your team, and if we're all on board, then we'll start teaching it. We'll start drafting out this curriculum. And that happened last year when I wanted to bring on this climate change curriculum. I was just like, the issue is getting bigger, wider, and our kids should really be learning about this instead of something that happened 50 years ago. What's more important now? And, we start creating this curriculum, and it's not only just teaching them the history of climate change, what it is, but also like, how are we going to get our students out there and become activists?
Yeah.
What are the changes they're going to make? Sorry.
I remember reading that there's a few articles, but I was just thinking about the communities that I grew up in, and I was like, wait, we really had highways right next to the apartment buildings. And I'm like, what is the impact? So it really opened my eyes to think about what's happening back in my community in San Diego and just thinking about where certain folks are living. Anyway, yes. So thank you. Thank you for that. I don't know if Chris, you have a follow-up question.
Well, I want to shout this out because you mentioned these articles too. And
Yes.
Yancy and Brandon, you're both highlighted in this article from Anya Kamenetz and Ed Post about environmental activism, and we're lucky to have here today. We're gonna bring her on in a second, but I want to say, like, typically when people think about environmentalism, it's easy to think about like forests and rivers and like oceans, right? But truly, like our cities also are grappling with issues of environmental activism and racism. So, can you speak specifically? Brandon, Asthma Alley. Like, I don't think people know about Asthma Alley in the Bronx. Can you explain what that is?
Asthma Alley is basically, as we know here, as I learned earlier on the year, a lot of students and kids my age, or everybody in the Bronx, residents in the Bronx, do suffer from asthma. So 1 in 4 children actually suffer from asthma, which is a high percentage, the highest in the nation. So Asthma Alley, specifically in the Bronx, is where all the kids were. This place in the Bronx, and a certain part of the Bronx, from the Cross Bronx Way, suffer from the effects and the pollutants, and us as residents, as minorities, suffer from those pollutants. So respiratory issues, asthma issues, we're the ones being affected by it every single day.
Thank you for sharing. You both have had a chance to meet Anya. Or Anya, did you visit them in person? Have you spoke to them on the phone? Talk to me about how you all met one another.
Yeah. So I had this assignment with EdPost to really look at environmental racism in the crossover with education. And so the role of students, first of all, how environmental racism affects students and kids in school. And secondly, what role do students have to play and young people have to play in environmental justice. And so I was lucky enough to come across like a newsletter article about the program and asked if I could come visit, reach out on Twitter, and they were nice enough to welcome me in for a little visit.
And I asked you a question before I had a chance to actually introduce you, so we're pleased to have you here. You're former NPR reporter, author of many books, author of the article we're talking about today, and the topics that I know you've covered: screen time for young people, standardized assessment, COVID, which I'll talk to you about in a second, and now I see a lot of your work specializing in environmental activism. Like, why is this the focus of some of your writing these days?
Great question. So I have recently come to find what the thread is in my work, and I think it's generational justice. So what I'm interested in is, issues of the world of justice as they affect particularly young people and future generations. And so, I've written in the beginning of my career about student loan debt and about the cost of college, access to college. I wrote about, that assessment book, the test, which was really about what structures are standing in the way of making learning and that's actually responsive to students, and how does our concept of achievement really, uphold structures of oppression, to be totally frank with you. And I know that you kind of share that idea. The Stolen Year, which came out last year, was about COVID-19 and how it impacted children. And to my money, the climate change issue, there is no stronger generational justice issue out there, because literally when you are born will determine what the course of your life and your ability to have a long, healthy life is right now. And that is a reality that we're working very actively to change. And so I am putting myself, in there with anybody who's trying to make a change in that area.
It feels almost, unfortunately, too rare to have a school like Fannie Lou that has a specific thread. And Yancy, maybe you get credit for it. That's about the environment and environmental justice. Anya, are there other schools that you've had a chance to speak with that are doing similar work?
So it's so interesting, right? Because what we see with climate and education is a push up from the grassroots, and there's starting to be some stuff coming down. So New Jersey is the first state to mandate the teaching of climate change in every grade, every class. California is embarking on a 3-year process to create comprehensive climate education standards. But students aren't waiting. So all across the country, Portland Public Schools, Denver Public Schools, Dallas Public Schools, Dallas Independent, students are taking this in their hands, and they're asking for a few different things at the same time. What they tend to be asking in these students' movements is they want green schools. So they want clean power, clean air, they want electric buses, and they want climate education. And along with this climate education that prepares them for the green workforce, they're also asking for climate mental health resources, because this is something Brandon and Yancy and the other students and his co-teachers talked about, because this is really tough stuff. We don't just teach the facts, like we have to teach the resistance, and you have to kind of build resilience at the same time.
California.
Sorry?
Your school in California, Carla, was part of your curriculum at all?
No, not at all. It wasn't until I think I mentioned that I got to undergrad that I learned about it. But I feel like the only time that I ever learned about, I feel like climate change or anything related to the environment was around recycling, but never really around what it looks like for even like urban settings or just communities, and the impact that people in power truly have on the way that toxins are released into the air and into what specific communities they are. And just, yeah. And you hear it a little bit more now with like nuclear waste, right? And like toxicity, but it's really prevalent, obviously, as we know now, within like more dense communities. Am I frozen, or is it Chris?
I think Chris is frozen.
Yeah.
Okay, great. All right. You're coming to, Chris, but I did want to actually I do have a question for Yancy and Brandon, because I did read, I think it is in the What is Environmental Activism, Youth of Color Creating Justice article around, or actually not that one specifically, but what is environmental activism, the ways that Fannie Lou students collaborate with local organizations to take action. Can you name a few of those orgs and or the work that students are doing within the community? Because there's one thing to learn about it, right? But what can young people do, or how do young people take action to kind of fight back in a way?
Yeah, definitely. So, we teach about the Bronx River and the history of the Bronx. And during that unit, we partner with Bronx River Alliance, which is across the street from us right there. And we partner up with them to test the river water, clean up parks. Our students have planted rain gardens with them. Not too far from Bronx River Alliance is Drew Gardens, where we've taken them over, who is another local organization just trying to restore the Bronx River and make the Bronx healthier. The Point is another organization that we partnered with, and recently they reached out to us and we went to a protest. We took our students also a protest to electrify NYC buses. There's also YMPJ, another great organization where it's student-led, and the students are taking the lead, becoming activists.
I love that. And I now that I think about it as a whole, right, I love the awareness that that we have with EdPost, and the collaborations with schools, just to bring more awareness, because we need to continue to hear this and to see this and to see young people coming to the forefront as well in terms of the action that we take and the curriculum that's being taught. Because Anya, I did not know that Jersey mandated this in their schools, and I lived in Jersey for a few years, and now I'm like, what? Why isn't this nationwide? Like, why am I not hearing about this? Anyway, I get so passionate about this. And Chris, you're back.
I mean, I was here the whole time, but I just didn't want to like jump in and, I enjoyed for a minute being a viewer of the podcast. But thank you for carrying it. And that's why it's so great to have a great co-host like you, Carla.
Oh, thank you.
Really enjoyed having, like many things, the reason I discovered this article is because, I have Twitter notifications set up for some of our schools, and was really fortunate that I was able to see this article from Anya about a school that I love dearly, and got a chance to visit again last week. So always a pleasure. Thank you all for joining Cup of Joy. It's been a real pleasure. And this is a topic I frankly don't know a ton about. So I'm glad I had a chance to learn more about it.
Thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you.
Bye.
Carla, I mean, I found that really, I learned a ton.
Oh my gosh, I know. Now I'm like, wait, what's happening? Like in terms of like, I need to get a little bit more educated. You hear, yeah.
Before I moved to Connecticut, I lived along the Bronx River. I lived on Bronx River Parkway, and it's very easy to take for granted that it just exists, not knowing the types of environmental efforts that have been put into it. I know that Fannie Lou Hammer Freedom High School has done a lot of work with the Bronx River Alliance to really clean that up.
Yeah, that's why I love Fannie Lou. I know that I've visited a few times, and obviously we have such a close connection with Nasim, but I'm like just hearing more and more about Fannie Lou. I'm like, wow, that school is so special. Like, so much
It
fun.
really is. All right, another episode.
Thank you so much.
Next week we're joined by Elliot Washer, who will talk about his new book, Learning to Leave.
Yes, Learning to Leave. Love it. Well, I can't wait to see him next week. I appreciate y'all for joining us this week, and I hope that y'all make it a great day or not, because the choice is yours. Bye.